Today we're taking the Midnight Train, which did get a price reduction, at least the Quake variant. A number of other things got buffed for Chaos Dwarfs, so we're taking a bunch of that today against a bunch of the buffed Lizardmen stuff in a test game against Wicked. Myself here, I've got Astrogoth and 3 Fireglaive Infernal Guard, as well as some Goblin Laborers, some Orc Laborers, also the Quake Mortar Train. We've got the not the Skullcracker, the other one that I can't remember the name of. 1 Light Cavalry, and then the brand new Lamassu, which has had some buffs. The main one being, of course, this area of effect silence and negation of magical effects. Magical weapons nearby. So negates magic damage, and more importantly, silences, which, of course, given that Lizardmen have Slawn, one of the best caster lords in the game, I brought it specifically just in case my opponent, Wicked, here brought a Slawn, which he did. He's also got a couple of newly juiced up Coatls here, which I guess can hide in the woods. That's kind of great. He's actually hiding the one, not in the woods, but with the other one's aura, which is just amazing. Coatl's got a nice glow up as well, but they get some extra weapon strength. Yeah, of course, their bound spells have always been pretty good. Their animations, while a little bit janky, can be very good at times as well, make them tough to hit by certain things, but that little bit of extra weapon strength I believe they got, just a little bit of a buff in general. I think they'll be pretty good in this next patch. You can see the Slawn there was being stalked, the 2 Coatls now flying away, looking to potentially zone that Lamassu here. He's got some Pterodon Riders as well, and then of course the Red Crests also got a buff. They're probably one of the worst infantry units in the game, mainly due to their terrible weapon strength, but here they're going to come under some heavy fire while advancing on Chaos Dwarfs, but eventually we'll get into combat here against these laborers. Start to filter in and bop them with their maces. Let's see where that Quake lands. As the Fireglaives fire up in the sky, you can see Wicked actually thunderbolting my train in the background there. Absolutely beautiful. I'm just kind of sitting there shooting with it, so it's a sitting duck. It actually does some pretty solid damage with that, get the name, Uranus Thunderbolt. Yeah, Lore of Heaven's caster. Slawn here, but Slawn right now is being relatively protected from the Lamassu. I'm trying to pull these Pterodon Riders in range to my guns. So you can see they're kind of chasing the Lamassu, kind of skirmishing it down a little bit, so I'm going to pull them across, try and skirmish with my own guns a little bit, and then move in to engage the Slawn, who's also kind of moving forward here. Infantry fight's going okay in my favor, mainly due to AoE damage. We casted that little Vortex spell here, this, what is it, Burning Wrath, that's right, Overcast Burning Wrath, actually pretty good anti-infantry AoE damage for relatively cheap, so just cast that, and between the Quake, everything else, the infantry fight's going okay. Lamassu comes in to try and snipe the Slawn. You can see he does momentarily get silenced. I cast the Enfeebling Foe, everything else. Astrogoth comes to fight the Spirit of Tephok. Well, I try and once again get the Lamassu back to the Slawn, but the Lamassu kind of chases the Slawn into the gun line, so I quick switch targets. Slawn is obviously much higher priority than the Pterodons are, so try and unleash some damage there. You can see in the back line a little bit of Chain Lightning went off, did some nice AoE damage. I think started on those Fireglaves probably, but not quite enough to take them down. Fireglaves in general have taken some damage, kind of counter-skirmishing from the Pterodon Riders. Looks like we're going to get some Rock Drop, perhaps. Oop, maybe. Looks like Wicked microing elsewhere. It's that Quake shot, just kind of lands right in the middle. But yeah, thankfully, I mean, for me at least, the Fireglaves burn and shoot, at least right now, relatively quickly. Not the fastest in the world, but at least they have fast missile speeds. They can consistently hit flying targets. See them kind of firing away. Not super accurate shooting the Spirit of Tephok. Again, part of that comes down to the animations, but right now, Astrogoth just getting a little bit overwhelmed. He is taking more damage than he would have before. The Red Crest, Barona's Time Warp, especially with that 65 attack. They're up to 30 weapon strength with Frenzy now. Kind of their baseline. Pretty good stuff. Yeah, immune to contact effects. Definitely some good stuff going on there. That all the way to 30 weapon strength definitely helps. Anything below 30 is really not great, to be honest. But, yeah, these guys They are going to get terrified away, but they've been doing pretty good supporting the two Coatls. Now the second one lands here, and 2v1, Astrogoth is going to have a hard time. You can see, even at a distance, how much their animations are just kind of going crazy. But decided I need to use the train in melee now, so we've made some cycle charges. You can see that more power buff still active as I pull away. Did get hit by its own monstrous impact, counteracting that, but that's fine. The Red Crests also are trading pretty decently. You can see here they get in contact with the Fire Glaives, and just due to their much superior numbers and their armor piercing, that little extra weapon strength definitely helps. I mean, this would have been a decent trade probably before, but even now, it can perform that intended role much better as another Dreadquake shot lands dead center on that fight, doing massive friendly damage, but also just KOing all those units of Skinks and the unit of Feral Cold Ones that came out of nowhere as well. Yeah. Paradon Riders still hanging around, still able to kind of skirmish here and provide some poison. Of course, the Red Crests also have poison on their attacks, which makes them great for pursuit. That fast speed and poison has always been nice. Without Frenzy, still 27 weapon strength, which is decent. I think actually, like, not amazing, I should say, not great. Arguably not even good, but I think, what Empire Swordsmen are like 28 weapon strength base, if I remember correctly. Or are they 32? I actually forget. Anyway, I think that 32 attack, 28 weapon strength, right? Anyway, don't think their stat line has literally ever changed. But, yeah. Alright, now I'm feeling pretty confident. But at the same time, these Coatls are going to be tougher to kill than I'm expecting. Just as a little spoiler alert, so definitely don't think that Wicked's out of this yet. These Coatls alive, he can definitely troll me a bit in some different ways. You can see him come just land directly on these two weakened Fire Glaives, which is definitely the right call. Even though I don't get my charge bonus, yeah, it kind of pulls in the friendly fire because I still have left this thing on fire at will, mainly so the front-facing shotguns on the train can continue firing. But yeah, results in some friendly fire there. And regardless, just kind of charging the threat directly, especially weakened as it is, just get them off the field quickly. And here, now they go 2v1. Astrogoth buffing himself up. Does manage to do some good damage. I make it a 2v2 as well with the train, but Astrogoth still takes some massive damage here. And actually gets routed off. He's not immune to psychology, is he? Regardless, he does get routed there. He is immune to psychology. But leadership just straight up broken. And that means a lot of other things are going to start to have leadership problems. Obviously, the laborers have been for quite some time. But to be honest, they were just here as giant HP sponges. Nothing else, really. I'm pretty confident that I at this one Infernal Guard, rather. Not so eternal, but Infernal. Same green. Maybe not same, but similar green. I'm hoping they can hold. I'm pretty confident they can, given they've got a lot of ammunition, a lot of models left. But they're having a really hard time getting any kind of firing arc on the Coatls. I'm really surprised with how much ammunition they actually still have. Thankfully, the train in melee is definitely pretty potent, and it will continue to kind of blast its shotgun attacks as it rides around. So we're going to fast forward as the Slay game will take some time. Because the Coatls, I mean, the train is doing damage to them a little bit. Not a lot. The Coatls also not really doing a lot either, actually, because the Fire Glaives have enough melee defense. And, you know, everything else, they're not really taking a ton of damage. Yeah, and they're also not able to really get attacks or shoot the Coatl either, because oftentimes their line of sight is being blocked, or they're struggling to get into position to fire. You can see there, they do get some shots. Let's actually go in this fast forward, like cinematic fast forward POV of the actual Fire Glaives themselves, so you guys can see from their perspective how they're kind of just struggling to shoot anything. Astrogoth does get actually fully killed there, and that is going to cause some leadership issues. Eventually, those Infernal Guard will just kind of rout, and I'm left with pretty much just the Iron Demon. And, yeah, Wicked runs his Red Crest over here to try and cap the objective, which this is technically Conquest, so he should do that. This is new Conquest, of course, with the 650 cap, victory cap limit. But yes, the train's going to toot its horn here, charge on in. See another regrouped laborer coming in from the rear, and we're going to try and break these Red Crests, make sure I can maintain the objective. And yep, Wicked wasn't quite able to take it, able to land those units just in time, shatter those Red Crests, and then the Coatl also is just somehow here, and also kind of dealing damage and taking damage, but not really. by far one of the silliest late games I've ever been a part of, but actually very close. Doesn't quite end up working out for Wicked, just barely hits army losses there before that other Coatl can come back. But yeah, I have to say, the Coatls were definitely MVPs for his build. Both of them paid for themselves. I mean, I guess technically the Regiment Renowned costs a little bit more. What are they, 1700 base? But both very solid performance overall, just especially together. Two of them kind of supporting each other, using those bounce spells quite well. And the Slann, despite my attempts to silence and snipe him, was still able to pretty much pay for himself as well, which is pretty interesting. The Red Crests, yeah, still not that great of a performance. Granted, I did have a lot of kind of anti-infantry tools. I mean, they're getting bombarded by this Iron Demon the whole time. The Dreadquake Mortar version, yeah. Dreadquake towed by the Iron Demon, probably the best because it technically has, I think, unlimited ammunition on the shotgun. Yeah, was able to just get insane value, insane damage dealt. Absolute MVP for me, for sure. Lamasu did tactically what it needed to a little bit. Didn't fully shut down the Slann, I guess, but certainly prevented it from casting many more spells. And did kind of chase it into the guns, which definitely Fireglaves were another very important piece for me here in this particular build. And then everything else, I mean, the Laborers, they're just kind of here. One of them actually does pay for themselves, the Orcs, with their new cheaper cost. But yeah, Astrogoth surprisingly actually doesn't get a ton of value, mostly just kind of supporting and running around. But yeah, really the Dreadquake and the Fireglaves here were what won it for me. And credit to Wicked there, definitely facing down a tough build. But he did his best, stayed in it till the end, and those Coatls almost won the late game for him. Like, I was legitimately concerned, like, are these guys gonna just carry? Are these silly flying lizards just gonna beat me right now? And they almost did. They definitely almost did, so that's fun. But yeah, new impressions of the patch so far. Haven't played too many games, some meme games, some test games. Got some replays as well I've been looking at, people have been sending and watching some events and stuff. And so far, things seem pretty kind of in flux still. People seem like they're definitely still figuring out what's good, and I mean, that process honestly is ongoing even when a patch has been out for some time, but definitely nice to see a shakeup and some different things kind of being brought. But from the Lizardmen perspective, the Coatl now as a flying monster, like, yeah, definitely very solid there, and that was even without healing. And with the Slann, I guess the damage from the Slann was quite nice. But yeah, overall, going to get some good uses out of these. The full strength Uranus Thunderbolt as well, as you saw there, can actually snipe single entities occasionally. Rona's Time Warp used to pretty good effect there as well. I guess a little bit of healing from the Bound Earthblood for the one Coatl. But interesting build, definitely interesting. And yeah, the fact that the Coatls kind of stock units underneath them is cool utility and it's okay in some matchups. You can kind of surprise your opponent if you position well, but not super reliable because the Coatl's kind of flying speed is not super fast, but it's faster than most ground units you have. So anyway, it's some oddness there, but it's definitely fun. I'm a fan of it being in the game, and the fact that Coatls themselves are just a little bit better as monsters, yeah, definitely felt very solid. I mean, 430 weapon strength with 59 melee defense for a flying monster. I mean, most flying monsters tend not to have that high of melee defense, especially. So between the melee defense and their animations makes them surprisingly difficult to kill. And even shooting them, like, their animations will often dodge many shots. So really, actually, Coatls might be meta. I don't know. Might be way too early to call that, but definitely be on the lookout for them. Hopefully enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.